You're like waiting on bated breath, like, did it meet value? Did it meet value? What do we have to do? Did I get the right comps? Okay, and so we wanted to have these three distinguished members of the appraisal community here so that they could answer some of your questions. So if you guys could tell us your name, how long you've been in the business, and an interesting fact about yourself.
Okay. I'm Chris Kaila. I've been in the business, actually I came in as a realtor in FAR in 1979, so I've been doing it for 44 years.
Hold on, how many of y'all weren't even born yet?
And so, that's all right, that's all right.
Check your pulse.
So, more interesting than the fact that I'm a past president of FAR was I was on the building committee that chose this location. And when we chose this location in 2005, there was nobody out here on this side. We went over on
It was farmland.
Well, I mean, the road was here, but
okay.
But no other person was here. So we bought the land, and then we formed a committee that got the builder, and we built it in 2007. And it took us 2 years to find this location. And every time I come here, I go, I remember that.
Yes, those were the days. Those were the days.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right, here and next.
My name's Diane Dawson. I've been appraising since '94. I started out actually when I was in high school in the early '80s.
Really?
Typing on an IBM Selectric for appraisers on the forms prior to having computer software. They would bring their handwritten little forms over, and I would type them up on a appraisal form and send it back. So that's kind of how I got started in the business.
Well, that's cool.
Yeah.
All right. And now here, sir.
My name's Tom Murray. I'm with Murray Appraisal Services. I've been at it for about 33 years, and I'm a triathlete. So yeah, a bunch of triathlons, marathons, Ironman, and
So what's a triathlete? You mean like you try lots of
we
things?
try real hard. We start to swim, and
Okay.
then we cycle, and then we run.
Woo!
So, and no one's chasing us. We just run because we want to do it.
All right. Woo! Go you.
Yes.
Not me. Not me. All right. And guys, look up on the screen here too. So we do have their names, the company that they're with, and their email. So raise your hand if you have ever seen any of these names on the bottom of your appraisal before. Awesome. Yay.
That's good.
Love it.
That's good.
Okay, so just to give you guys a little bit of information, this is what you have to do to become an appraiser. You have to obtain your Virginia Appraisal Trainee License 75 hours, okay? Then complete your licensed residential real estate appraiser education, another 75 hours. Conduct your appraisal work experience, 1,000 hours, okay? Submit your application, there's a fee for that, and then you have to pass the National Uniform Licensing and Certification Examination, another fee for that. Wow, okay? Yeah, I'm like, wow. So you know what, these guys really have to go through a lot before they can even say that yes, that they are an appraiser and they can take care of you and all your clients. So that's amazing. All right, so first question here. Is there a difference in the type of appraisal based on the loan type? And so I'm going to start here with Diane, and then we'll see if you gentlemen want to add anything to it.
So there is there's different forms that can be used, but a lot of that's set by the lender. And then the scope of work is kind of based on what the loan program is, if it's FHA or conventional, as to what needs to be done.
Okay. All right, cool. Tom, you want to add something to that?
You're the mortgage lender. You're the ones that order the appraisal.
Hold on. I work for a mortgage company.
All right.
Not a lender. I'm business development. I'm really, really good at telling you about yes. But thank you for thinking I'm a lender. I appreciate that.
Right. I mean, generally they order it as a condo, single family UR, AR, or multifamily. So the property type has a lot to do with it. But sometimes we'll come back and say, hey, it's a duplex. This looks like a single family. It's a duplex. And sometimes we might argue with the lender, hey, we got the wrong form here. But generally speaking, the appraisal request they tell us which form they'd like. There is a new form coming out that's been coming out for a while, but it may be in a year or two where we don't have to select in advance the form type, that this, I guess, universal accordion type form is going to cover any type of property.
Oh, wow.
Residential.
Okay, so that will essentially make it easier for everybody then?
Yes.
Okay.
That's the
okay.
plan.
Okay, so we're all on the same page. I like that. Chris?
Just the name of the form is the Uniform Residential Appraisal Report, URAR, and that usually goes with, even if it's FHA or VA or conventional, we all use that same report. If we were doing an appraisal that's not for a loan, we could use a general GP form, general appraisal form, and that's a little easier, a little less information required.
So what about like another loan type, like an RD or a VHDA? Does that still fall under one of those, or is that a totally separate?
URAR is for all government
Okay.
loans as well. Now, the inspections are a little bit different for government loans, because they want us to look for certain repairs, or I think about it as marketability. You know, I'll make comments if the marketability is something has to be done before it become marketable.
Okay, very cool. All right, thank you. All right, so who hires you to do an appraisal? Now, again, how many of you have been an agent for like 15 years or longer? Okay, yeah. So like I remember that we could still 15 years ago kind of like say, oh, you know, I'd like it to be this person, this person, this person, and everything. And typically those connections were made on the golf course, you know, and you're like, hey, I need that, you know, kind of thing. So who hires you now, Tom?
My question. Typically, it's a mortgage lender. Sometimes it could be an attorney, it can be a realtor, it can be a homeowner, and oftentimes a homeowner may want to list their house, or they may have an estate planning issue. Somebody died, they need a date of death appraisal. Oftentimes, a realtor might need a pre-listing appraisal. But majority of our work is mortgage rate dependent, which is kind of scary at times. But we have survived the housing recession.
I will survive.
Yeah.
Okay, that's all that's going to be on my mind the rest of the time here. Chris, you got anything to add to it?
Yeah, so what Sherry was referring to is they separated the appraiser from the loan officer. That was the big, when we had the problem with loans and failures.
Wait, there was a problem with loans before? I don't know what you're talking about.
A lot of new rules came up, and they had to have a appraisal department separate from the loan department. Okay, so some banks are big enough where they'll have a appraisal department, and they'll come like if it would Truist. They're down in North Carolina. They'll have a whole staff of appraisers ordering the appraisals, reviewing the appraisers. But some of the smaller banks, they can't afford to have an appraisal department separate from where the loan officer. They hire appraisal management companies. Plus, it is easier for them to do it. I think a lot of the mortgage companies do it that way. And you know, there's good and bad about having appraisal management companies. I think what I miss is that close interaction. Now, you know, I was never acceptable to bribes or anything, you know, but the appraisal management companies, it's so much in the dark, and I speak this from an agent too. I just don't like people from Maryland and Williamsburg coming to do the appraisal.
Northern Virginia, please.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, well, that's sometimes you can't avoid that. We go up to Northern Virginia from our office if we go up there, but I don't think we'll go to Williamsburg. But anyway, so but as Tom was mentioning, besides the loans, we do get a lot of appraisals from attorneys, you know, trying to do property settlement agreements and estate.
Divorce attorneys. Okay, all right.
Where's my man Chris Tate? I don't know. He was supposed to come.
Okay.
He's our expert in our office. You know, because he likes to go to court. He's experienced.
Dear God. Okay. I understand him a little bit better now. Okay.
Okay. So in estate planning and attorneys for litigation. So we get appraisals from a lot of non-banks too.
Okay. Diane, you have anything to add to that?
CPAs, that's another, a lot of times for estate planning, they'll contact us for an appraisal for that also.
Okay.
No, I think pretty much those are the typical. Agents obviously do referrals sometimes for pre-listing.
Okay. So now typically though, when we're talking about for a real estate contract, that it is the lender that hires you, but they don't hire you directly, correct? It's part of a pool.
Correct. So
Yes.
it's not gonna be the loan officer.
Right.
You can't
It's
get
not going to be the
involved.
loan officer
And that's
reaching
the
out to
person
you.
we're not allowed to talk to, pretty much.
Got it.
But
Got
we are
it.
allowed to talk to real estate agents.
Oh, I didn't know. Okay.
So-
Learn
now,
something new every
Now,
day.
some appraisers don't like to because they think that they will be swayed or that maybe that interferes with their independence, but I think if you don't talk to the realtors who know the properties many times better than we do, that we're not gonna get that important input, but I certainly have to take it with a, grain of salt,
Right.
if they're gonna be biased. When our appraisers come in low on a contract, I will tell the appraiser, call the buyer's broker. Don't call the listing agent. You're gonna, you can do both.
Right.
You can do both. But that the listing agent's gonna be pushing the value to get the highest price. But if the buyer's agent is saying, no, we looked at, 30 properties and I think we're getting a good deal, we think it's good. I'll take that over the listing agents, just because I know that the buyer's agent is supposed to be protecting their buyer and they're not gonna be pushing the value.
Interesting. All right. All right, so Chris, I'm going to come back to you. What are the top 3 things that you're looking for when conducting an appraisal? And I know that there's a lot of things. So what are
Okay.
typically your top 3 things? And then we'll give you guys some.
Yeah, thank you for the questions. This is like.
I did. I gave them all the questions ahead of time. And so Chris took notes.
Yeah, this is like some of those political questions you always get a bit in advance, So.
Yes, you were prepped.
yeah.
All of you were prepped for the panel. Yes.
So the 3 most important things. First of all, would be the property itself, the improvements. So that's what I'm talking about, the house. So it's important to get a good description of the house. That's the most important thing, how old it is and how big it is, etc. The second would be the site. So what kind of site is it on? Is it on a half acre or 50 acres? Or is it sloping? Is it wooded? Can you use it? So number 2 would be the site as far as value. And then the third, and somebody could say this always should be first, location. But the third would be the location, is where is that property at? Is it in Louisa? Is it in downtown Fredericksburg, Northern Virginia? What neighborhood is in? So the location is very important, but sometimes still the house itself and the lot, to me, are 1, 2, and then where it's at after that.
All right. Very cool. Diane, what about you?
Quality, condition, any improvements that have been done. It's always really helpful, I feel like, if agents provide that information, if they have it. When the home's been updated, systems that have been replaced.
Okay, so like systems. So not necessarily like additions to the house, but you're also looking inside too with the systems. Okay.
Right. It's even helpful, honestly, when we're looking at comparables, we're reading the MLS to get information on the comps, calling to verify. I mean, I do that. I'm sure these guys do too, but I know there's a lot of appraisers who don't. We actually, in the software program they have a like peer data thing that you can look at and kind of see what other appraisers have, not their adjustments, but just what they've said about a property, like quality, condition, that type of thing. And it's really just interesting to look at that data. I don't ever use it, but I definitely look at it just to see like, hey, am I kind of in line with my peers on, they came out with that data set now where we have to say, instead of like average to good quality, it could be Q3 or Q4, and there's a list of definitions for what that entails. Yeah, so it's uniform, it's UAD definitions. It should be in the appraisal, but it kind of explains what each quality, and it goes from Q1 to Q6, with Q6 being the lower, and then same thing with condition. They have now C ratings. In fact, pretty recently they've come out and like banned us from using words like average or good in reports, and you'll get
Yeah,
flagged.
I don't like average. Don't like that, yeah, don't like that word.
It's funny some of the words that have come out though that, I mean, you might just use it not even in relation to the home, but all of a sudden,
Can you ever
can't
use
say that
fabulous
word.
in your report? I would use fabulous. It would be, fabulous would be on the report.
Well, I did a house on Church Street and it came back saying, hey, you've said church in your report, you need to remove that. And I'm like, what's the street name? So I can't really change that.
Wow.
So, yeah, it's,
Wow. So
Yeah.
you guys are being watched for fair housing too.
absolutely.
All right, very cool.
We're
Chris,
really
you-
not supposed to use words like fabulous and things.
Yeah, descriptive.
Okay,
adjectives.
okay.
Eliminate the adjectives.
All right, Tom, what about you?
Right. Yeah. There's a lot of ways to look at it. As you said, there are many different factors, and you all have covered most of them. I mean, I think from a realtor's perspective, they want to know from me what do you need, and I think on a typical house in a subdivision, it's the upgrades is what I am looking for from a realtor. When did they replace the roof, thermal windows, HVAC, the floors? So what separates this house from all the other houses in the neighborhood? What upgrades? So if you've got a data set inside the subdivision, you've got the high quality homes that have been renovated, and then the ones that are builder grade, help us understand why you're on this end from a realtor's perspective. But what I actually do when I'm walking through the house, I have a tablet and I'm measuring and I'm sketching and I'm listing rooms and taking photos. You all probably have seen an appraiser do this. That's what we're actually doing, is the actual data gathering. But part of the data gathering is determining those upgraded features, those deferred maintenance, those needed repairs, or when the kitchen was renovated. We need to know, was the kitchen renovated within the last year, 1 to 5 years, 5 to 10 years? These are questions that are broken down that way on the appraisal report. Kitchens and baths, those are 2 sections that we would need help with. Those are biggies for a realtor to tell an appraiser. When was the kitchen, when was the bath renovated? But what I like to do is find that factor that affects value. What am I missing? Is it on the water? If it's on the water, is there a bridge downstream that's gonna prevent the sailboat, but you can hit the motorboat? Or if it's on the water, how deep is the water? How long you have to make that bridge? Or what is unique about this property is what I'm looking for. What we're looking for are factors that affect value. Do you have a commercial building in the backyard, or do you have a wooded lot where nobody else does? There's somebody else looking at the house right behind them, or you got a wood lot. What are the factors for adjustment? It's not, we don't just go off the form and, on the form they show the factors, but we're not restricted by the form. I hope that helps.
Yeah, hold on, I'm like, what? I'm learning something new,
Right.
yes.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay,
You want me to wait?
yes, if you guys should just hold your questions
Yes.
for the end, because we
Yeah.
might answer them as we go through,
Yeah.
but yes, we've definitely got time at the end, so
Okay.
please write them down and we'll come back to that. All right, so, Diane, is it a legal requirement that someone is home when you conduct an appraisal?
No.
Okay, all right, guys, so here we go. So it's not a legal requirement. Now, what is your preference?
I'll be honest, I'm indifferent. Either way is fine. I have no problem with someone being there. If they want to leave, it doesn't bother me either way, honestly.
So does it make a difference though, whether it's the realtors or the homeowners or the buyers?
My preference probably would not be the buyers.
Okay.
But,
I've never heard of a buyer going at the appraisal.
Yeah, I probably really in 30 years had maybe 2 or 3 that have asked. Usually it's, the seller's there, or maybe the agent meets me. I guess one of the main things is, we're pretty focused when we're going through the rooms, and like Tom mentioned, having to, write down data on materials and taking photographs and stuff, so it's easy to get distracted if somebody's kind of walking and, chatting at you. So, my preference is obviously if somebody's there to just kind of let me do my thing, or if they want to show me around, but kind of let me, focus on the job, and then we can, either before or after, discuss anything or get any information. I always like if agents provide like a list of updates or information that is helpful.
Okay, yeah, that's
Oh,
down
yeah.
the list. Shh. Okay, all right. Tom, what about you? What is your preference?
This is my favorite part of the job is meeting people and chatting with them. It's very frustrating when a realtor tells a homeowner, leave the house when the appraiser gets there. It's inconvenient for the homeowner. I love talking to the homeowners. I do a lot of VA appraisers. I'm a veteran. I love talking about VA and what they did in the military. But homeowners know when the house, the roof was replaced. They know,
Well, hopefully they should know.
yeah, I mean, they know better than anybody. I think they know better than realtors. Unless they tell the realtor, how does the realtor know? So, I think it's a primary source, and I just love chatting with people. I don't normally forget to take the rear photo. I'm pretty good at reviewing, so it's not a distraction for me. I like visiting with people, and connecting with people. It's my favorite part of the job, and I get steps in. I go up and down stairs all day.
Very nice, very nice. Do you like walk the perimeter of the
Oh,
lot
yeah.
too, if you need to get extra steps in?
I do. I don't know if this is relevant for all appraisers, but they always say, all right, you want to come in? I say, no, I got to do the exterior first. I'm going to walk around, I'm going to sketch it, I'm going to photograph it, and then when I have my sketch, then I can come in and I can put the label, bedroom is right here inside the sketch. I got to have the sketch first. I got to do the outside first. I don't know how any other appraiser could do it differently, but maybe they do. But that's how I do it. I gotta do the outside first.
All
And
right.
I love talking to realtors and lenders.
Oh, good. Yay. Woo. All right, Chris, what about you? Do you have a preference?
Yeah, I meant to ask, does anybody do commercial sales? Commercial?
Okay.
Okay, because it's a little bit different with commercial, all these things, but to be honest, I really don't have a preference, but I sometimes like it when nobody is there because I can get it done quicker. My appraisers say that the scheduling is easier. They say go anytime for such and such. If it's empty, those are great, because we can do them faster. Okay, but I do think it makes for a better appraisal if somebody is there because
Okay.
they know, like Tom said, they know the property better. And we will get information that we would not have gotten through the remarks. A lot of times I like to ask them, what have you liked about living here the best?
Okay.
What have you not liked about living here? And now with commercial inspections, it's usually very important that we have somebody there because there's so many different items that affect value that we may or may not know. Because we don't get the write-ups like you do with listings, and also with commercial, we almost have to talk to somebody.
Yeah. All right, so I'm gonna throw this was not on your list of questions, but have you ever talked to the homeowner and gotten different information than what was listed in the MLS?
Of course. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
So, so maybe like, the agent put in there, oh, new roof in the past year. And then you talk to the homeowners and you're like, oh no, it's been like 10 years ago.
I haven't had it
Hopefully
that bad.
Okay, okay, all right. All right, let's see here. Next question. All right. And again, this is something that, I used to think about like all the time, and I dealt a lot with like short sales and stuff like that and everything. So does the cleanliness, does a house have to be straight? Does the homeowner have to go around, clean their entire house, make sure, does that really affect what your appraisal is going to come out with? And I think, Chris, we'll start with you.
That's probably asked of us the most.
Oh, okay, good. I'm glad I had it on the list.
Before we come out for an appraisal, they ask, we really don't want you coming out now, or what difference does the condition make, or do we have to, we get that asked a lot. And what I usually say is we can see beyond dirt, but and we've seen it all too. There's been houses we couldn't even walk in.
Right.
Wow. It was so bad, and hoarder houses, and we certainly have seen a lot of that. When we went over what was important factors to value, that's usually not one of them because we can see beyond that.
Okay.
On the other hand, you can, when we say we can see beyond it, that's a problem, because you see beyond it and everything else is in bad shape too.
Okay.
Not necessarily always,
Right.
but what I'm saying is, you can get an idea of the condition just by the, obviously when you come into a house and it looks like they were ready for you, it makes a better impression. We're human, you know, we can see a lot more. But again, some of the houses, when it just, they have no preparation whatsoever, you know, maybe subconsciously it might, you know, but it, for the most part, I always say it doesn't matter. I need to get in there, I need to look at it.
Okay.
Don't take so much time, get ready.
Got it. All right, Diane, what would you like to add to that?
I find it interesting because the people who always say, "Oh, excuse my mess," their house is like pristine.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, you guys see the same thing. Or we're getting ready to have a yard sale. Sorry about all the clutter. And you know, it's amazing how many people are prepping for a yard sale in December. But yeah, I'm with Chris. You know, if it's just general, like, you know, I haven't vacuumed since, you know, Saturday or that type of thing, I don't think it's a big deal. Obviously, like a hoarder situation, or, you know, that type of, or just the house has had really no upkeep, you know, that's a different situation. But as far as just general, I mean, I'll get that a lot, like, "Oh, I really want to clean up or vacuum before you come," and I always say, you know, hey, if it's just general cleaning, like, don't worry about it, you know, we can go ahead and come on out.
Okay, so someone doesn't need to go and like completely dust the house.
Right,
Before you
right,
get there.
because like he said,
Yeah.
we're looking beyond that, we're not focused on, you know, white glove, you know.
Okay, so, all right, okay, again, this was not on here. Do y'all wear white gloves when you go? Okay, all right, nobody wears white gloves for an appraisal.
During COVID, maybe, but.
Oh, okay, well, okay, yes, gotcha. Tom, what about you?
Right, no white gloves, I wouldn't be able to use the tablet.
Okay.
Right, yes, we get this a lot, just like Chris. How do I explain it? You know, what I'm looking for is vaulted ceilings, you know, it's not the dirt. How do I explain this? What we're trying to appraise is the most probable sales price, and if the house is gonna sell, you're gonna clean it and you're gonna put it on the market. That's implied in the
Hopefully.
definition of
Hopefully, yes.
of market value. So no, the current state is not really relevant to how you're going to list it. We in the definition of market value, we have adequate exposure time, and clearly that you're going to list it. The current state and how you would list it are two very different things. It's irrelevant whether you ran around with a duster or you've got stuff ready to stage for a yard sale. You see right past it. I do understand why people want a clean house and presentable, and sometimes it's not always feasible. Oftentimes on a refinance, somebody's working full-time and they're trying to get their refinance. Me personally, not at all. I'm looking for the stone fireplace, the vaulted ceilings, the hardwood floors, the stainless appliances. These are the things I
Well,
write
but
about.
like, for instance, if you're looking at the condition and the type of appliances, if someone has just cooked like a 10-course meal and everything is now on the stove and you can't open anything, you can't see anything, you can't look at that, that might have a little bit of effect. Do you think, or no?
Maybe I should be opening the stove.
Okay, yes.
Okay, yeah, it might be a requirement. That stove works.
How many of y'all store your pots and pans in your stove? Anybody? Yeah, okay, all right, I do it, okay. All right, so, Diane, I'll start with you. So, do you like for the listing agent to leave you comps and maybe some cookies?
Comps are great, yeah, I definitely,
So
like
you
to
do,
see-
okay.
you know, like to see where their head was at, like what they were comparing it to arrive at that price. You know, I typically like it if they don't come to the property or leave a package, just email some comps, or at least, you know, a data sheet with what they looked at to arrive at the price.
And cookies, is that?
Not really.
Okay.
I definitely don't need those, but.
Okay, all right, cool. All right, Tom, what about you? Comps and cookies. How do you feel?
I am guilty of taking the Fritos, when they're available. I have done that before.
Okay.
I feel guilty about it.
Oh, okay.
I'm adding that to your contact information in my phone.
Likes Fritos. Okay, all right.
Comparable sales, typically they say, I've got the realtor packet, and I say, please put it on the kitchen counter. And then on the kitchen counter, before I leave, I'm taking photographs of every listing page. We're all paperless appraisal process, so I want to get that I don't want to miss anything. If you guys know of comparable sales, I need all the information. Chris touched on it, and I agree with him, but it would be really bad if there was a comparable sale that was really good and I missed it, it came in low, and then we found out about it later. I want to know what you want. I want to know what you know. I want to know everything. I want to know good, bad, I need everything. Imagine if I didn't have all the information and I did an appraisal and that would be horrible. So it's just critical to me that I know everything. If you're gonna give me free information, absolutely. We're thrilled, especially on complex properties. Just did one on the Potomac, just up from the GW Parkway.
Oh, wow.
I had a view of the Potomac. Yeah, the realtor gave us comps. Thank you very much. How many,
Yeah.
just up from George Washington's house.
Oh, very nice.
Yeah.
All right, Chris, what about you? Comps and cookies.
Well, about the cookies, I prefer cash.
And update that in his contacts. Okay.
Very afraid.
It's just a different C word.
Yes.
Joking aside, we can't accept anything that might be considered a bribe, and a lot of people involved with the transaction when we're doing the appraisal, they're just trying to be nice, and they'll want, say they own a restaurant or something, they say, come on down to the restaurant or do this or do that. I think it's inadvertently,
You can go after the house closes, right? You can go to the restaurant after the house closes.
There's gotta be a certain amount of time.
Okay, all right.
You don't go the day it closes, like that.
Okay.
But,
Wait until it goes on record. Got it.
yeah,
See?
but-
Yeah, we got this. Okay.
So that comes up. I mean, we have to say no, and I mean, it's tempting sometimes. They want to do something for you that's nice, but we can't accept it. But as far as the comps is concerned, I think we all have said it, we definitely would like to see it. If we don't see it ahead of time and your appraisal's off, you're gonna see it after it, so they're gonna, if it's an appeal, the first thing I say, send me your comparables, okay? And most of the time, they're not that comparable at all, but at least they've had their input. And I know, I mean, to tell you, I don't mind giving away my secrets as an agent.
Oh, okay, all right, hold on. We got a secret coming here. Everybody pay attention.
Yeah. If I'm a listing agent and we've got a contract, I'm gonna make sure I give the appraiser the comps that will make it. I may leave out the one that would make it, not make it. Okay, but at least I give the appraiser the opportunity to appraise it for the contract price, okay? But so if I said give them comps and there's nothing there that can make it, it's like that doesn't make any sense. Or there's a lot of properties that the comps are difficult. They're very difficult. It could be some weird property. And so I will have to look to find the comps that would make it work. As a listing agent, I may think, well, we got an extra 10,000, I think, but let's find the comp that's gonna make it work. And I'll give that to them.
Okay.
Because if we didn't do that, the market would never increase. You gotta think about that, somewhere along the line, as the market increases, the same house is selling for more. I mean, that's a fact. It has to, but for it to go up, somebody's willing to pay an extra 5,000.
Right.
So you gotta find another house that's bracketed higher than that, so the appraiser can come in at the value that is market, Again, I'm not talking about pushing any value, but the idea is that it's not an exact science. Well, it's a combination.
Yeah.
You hear that a lot. Appraisals you know, it's a science. It kinda is, cause you have to have those comparables, but again, there's still, you know, the human quality of, I bought it cause I love that view. And
Mhm.
that's something that's sometimes very hard to support.
Yeah, well, and I think that that's just the thing, again, a while ago, it's like, you know, it's like, do the appraisers, do you feel like that we're stepping on your toes if we're leaving comps? Like, do you feel like we're telling you how to do your job?
No,
Okay.
some appraisers might feel that way, and.
And we don't want
I
them.
apologize.
Right.
Nope,
for
we don't want them,
not
okay.
Being open-minded.
Right.
But we're all three on the same page.
Well, and
Right.
again, so if the comps are at least there, what the listing agent was using and where that they were trying to get the value from, them being there, it's your choice then whether you want them or not. It's not like that we're trying to step on your toes.
Right.
Right.
Okay.
I mean, I've had agents, honestly, it's kind of funny because, you know, you'll have agents obviously that have a good idea on running comps and actually kind of getting properties that are similar, but, I mean, I've had agents that have sent me packages for a $450,000 sale and the comps range from 200 to 900,000 and, you know, a townhouse for a single family, and you're kind of looking at it like, okay. You know? But I mean, but on the other hand, you know, I've had agents that have really provided really good sales or, you know, written some notes like, hey, you know, I know this one down the street sold, but it was, you know, a really nasty divorce and I just wanted you to be aware of that. And
Oh,
sometimes,
okay.
you know, we might not know that information. It's obviously not gonna be on the listing, you know.
Right.
So sometimes it's good to have that information.
Or
and-
like when someone sells it to a family member or something
Right.
like that, and so it brings down, okay.
One thing I will say is I see this every now and then, where agents will enter into MLS, and I don't know the agent aspect of this, you probably do. You know, a land sale, and then the people have contracted to build with a builder, and so they just combine those two prices and put it in MLS as, you know, like a $700,000 sale of this property.
Right,
Where actually, you know, that's not a sale, and we can't use something like that.
okay.
Where, you know, it's just a land sale and then they contracted to build, so there wasn't an actual sale of the house.
Right. Okay. All right, so let's see here. Tom,
Yes, ma'am.
how do safety issues affect an appraisal? And I know this is a loaded question, so I'm starting with you.
Right, thank you,
Yep.
Diane.
Yes.
From a realtor's perspective, sometimes I am frustrated with realtors. I'm like, doing an inspection for FHA and there's cracked and peeling paint and it was built prior to 1978. I just thought that was common knowledge, but I'm gonna put it out there. It would be better to fix the scrape and paint, you know, before the appraiser gets there. If you've got handrails that are missing and it's above 30 inches, or it's above 3 steps, or the step is missing, safe, sound, sanitary for VA are the questions. If you've got water intrusion, maybe there was a roof leak, and we're gonna get up in the attic and we're gonna look, but that roof leak may have been repaired and there still may be water stains on the ceiling. You might wanna tell the appraiser that the roof was fixed and the water stain is still there.
Or maybe paint it before the appraiser gets there.
That would be nice, but I'll put a note in, I'll take a picture of that water stain, I'll put a note in there that the homeowner has stated that the roof was repaired, and I'll get up on the roof and look. But, yeah, these are some of the biggies, when it comes to, a required repair. You know, we'll make the appraisal subject to these repairs, especially with FHA. It would be a good idea if you have the water on, the electric on at the time of the inspection. If there's dirt piled up around the septic system, you might want to explain to the appraiser why there's dirt. Maybe they just had to dig it up so they could flush it, or maybe there's a problem with the septic system. It's very likely the appraiser's gonna take a picture of that dirt.
Pictures of dirt, okay. I like-
Standing water, right? I mean,
Okay.
maybe it just rained for 3 days prior to the inspection and the water is standing right against the foundation. Maybe the gutters don't divert the water, just had one yesterday. Doesn't divert the water away from the house, that could be a problem, you know, called settlement. So these are safe, sound, mold. Gosh, you got mold in the basement, you might wanna mitigate. Standing water in the basement, that would be a problem.
Or in the crawl.
Ponding water or in the crawl, yeah. Yeah, you might wanna talk about it if there was a fire and it's evident in the attic, you know, maybe 50 years ago there was a fire, you know, you wanna explain to them. Safe, sound, sanitary is VA, and minimum property requirements for FHA, there's a whole slew, I mean, that's
Okay,
Yeah, right.
okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Windows go up and down, you know, test the outlets, we're supposed to be doing all that for FHA, that's quite a thing.
Yeah, can't have nailed shut windows. Had one FHA the other day, and I don't know why, but the homeowner had nailed shut all the windows.
Okay. All right, Chris, what about you? What are your
Yeah.
thoughts on safety affecting an appraisal?
Yeah, Tom covered it pretty good. I'll expand on that a little bit about what I mentioned about marketability. Sometimes we come across something that would affect the marketability, and it's some problem that we see with the house. It could be a safety issue, could be the leaking basements or the leaking yard or an underground storage tank that somebody just said that they have one. And what I tried to do, but they want an as-is appraisal. So either we will make, what we have is called an extraordinary assumption. And I'll ask somebody involved with the house, what would it cost to fix that problem? Now, if they don't know, that makes it a big problem for us. We're gonna have to guess, and we usually guess high, so it's gonna hurt you. But if you have a contractor estimate that says it's gonna take $10,000 to fix the flooding that's coming into the house or whatever.
Oh, okay.
That's helpful. And then we would say that the as-is value is based on the extraordinary assumption that it's $10,000. Now, and that way we can get to a value. We'll adjust $10,000. Other than, because if we don't address it and you say that it needs work, they still will, I don't know how you do it without making that an assumption, okay? Now, if somebody has a problem with that estimate, because maybe they think, I can get it done for $5, that gets out of it. But if they can prove to the lender they can be done for $5, then I'll put it down, you add $5,000 to the value. You know what to do. But if it ends up being 15 because somebody said 10's too low, then you subtract 5,000 from the value.
Right.
But that's what that extraordinary assumption comes in handy.
All right, very cool. Diane, any more thoughts on safety?
Well, I think that there's a misconception. A lot of people feel that conventional is just like all flies and
Free for all,
Right.
Wild Wild West, anything can pass for,
yeah, and
okay.
that's not necessarily true. They're also concerned with safety items, peeling paint pre-78, exposed wood surfaces, specific, mainly safety, obviously, concerns. A bedroom with a boarded up window or something, something that would be considered a safety hazard.
Right.
Can affect a conventional also. I've had, agents call before and say, well, why did you know that? This is conventional. Like, that's just the,
Right,
safety,
it's conventional,
but-
everything's okay.
yeah.
But would you say though too, I mean, typically though, on a VA or an FHA, there are stricter guidelines
Yes,
for safety
definitely.
things that you're looking for?
Definitely.
Is there one that you say would have the most? Because you were starting to say FHA, would you say FHA has got the most
Yes.
conditions that have to be met? Okay,
Right, we have to test everything, and if something's on the property, it has to be working. So, if they have an oven and one of the burners isn't working, we're supposed to mention, you're not conditioning for repair maybe, but, like, hey, the left front burner on the oven's not working. But if anything's on site, it has to be working. It's almost better to remove something if it's not, function, like a microwave, a built-in microwave, not a personal, but like a built-in microwave, if it's not functioning, you're better to just take it out, because otherwise we have to know, the microwave wasn't working when we were there. Not that necessarily it would be a repair item, but it's just something that could cause a delay. But we're required to test, anything that's,
so like if there's a ceiling fan that's not working properly, better to take out the ceiling fan and just put up one of those god-awful little bubble lights?
right, I wouldn't be conditioning for a ceiling fan,
Okay.
saying like it has to be repaired or anything, but, sometimes also the call's up to an underwriter, if you're noting something that's not,
Right.
working.
All right, cool. Okay, all right, so next question here. Come on, phone. There we go. Chris, is a drive-by appraisal a real thing?
Sure is.
Here we go.
It's called a Form 2055, exterior only. And,
So it is for exterior only.
oh yeah, and
I've had appraisers give a whole value for the house and call it a drive-by appraisal. This has been a long
Oh.
time ago.
What I thought you meant was, can we do an appraisal by just driving by it?
Yeah.
Well, that's a slang for the exterior only.
Oh,
That's
okay.
a slang, yeah.
So just know that if someone has said they've done a drive-by appraisal and they are a licensed appraiser, what they're saying is you've only looked at the outside, not the inside.
Correct.
Ah.
We do those a lot for foreclosures, for example.
Okay.
And the bank's foreclosing, maybe the person's still in there, is hostile or whatever, and they just need a value so they can show it to the judge or whoever it is that approves it, whatever. And we make that extraordinary assumption
Okay.
that the interior resembles the condition of the exterior.
Wow.
And usually, I mean, it makes sense that it would, but who knows, we could see the outside looking nice.
Yeah.
And then who knows what's in the inside. And so we make that extraordinary assumption to let them know that we have not seen the inside. We're assuming it looks like the outside.
Kind of like dating. You're making a lot of assumptions on the outside.
Looking really good.
Okay. All right, Diane, what about you? What are your thoughts on drive-by?
So I won't do drive-by work except for like pre-foreclosure. I did do one recently for an estate where one of the siblings was living in the property and they weren't amicable to having somebody come in, including their
okay.
siblings. So I did a drive-by on that. I personally don't like to do it just because can be so many unknowns. Maybe if it was listed last year on MLS and I can, pull up a bunch of photos, but
Oh, okay.
That happens.
right, yeah. Otherwise, again, like pre-foreclosure or a situation where you absolutely can't get in, but if a lender is calling wanting a drive-by, I personally won't do those. Chris and I were actually talking earlier, Fannie Mae came out with a new property data collector, where they're actually having like third-party people go into homes. I don't know if any of you have been solicited, because I found that, many of them are agents. They go into the home, get all the data, provide it to the management company, and then they give that data to the appraiser, and the appraiser does an appraisal based on somebody else's inspection.
Oh, yeah,
Um,
appraisal technician.
Yeah, and
Oh.
they've already
Just trying
found,
to get the fees down
Yep.
to
Right.
the client, but
Wow.
we're not happy with it.
but not to the consumer. That it wouldn't bother me as much if the consumer was getting that impact of the lower fee, but it's not. It's always the
Right.
business that's collecting it and everybody else's. So so that's one right now, and they don't have a lot of training for that. I mean, if it's agents doing it, at least they've got that training.
Hopefully.
Right, but you can go on Indeed and find these. Hey, want to make $40 looking at a house, and it's literally
Side
like
hustle. Hello.
it's
okay.
literally like a 4-hour class they take, and you don't have to be licensed, you don't have to be insured. They've already had a case where a convicted felon. So it's a little scary. I got a call to do an appraisal in Pelham's Crossing, and when I called to schedule, he said, "Oh, the appraiser was already here." Well, come to find out, this property data collector he had let him into the house believing he was an appraiser. And so, especially for people who are living in a home, and people who leave their house to
Right.
allow somebody to come walk through their home, you don't really know. Where at least with somebody who's, licensed and
Audited,
insured and
insured,
has
yeah.
credentials, you feel a little more comfortable.
Wow. All right, Tom, what about you? What are your thoughts on drive-bys?
I looked at your question this morning and I had a slightly different take on it.
Oh,
Again, you're the mortgage lender, so you're the one that's gonna order the appraisal. There are some drive-bys that I have walked away, I just don't feel comfortable with. Yes, we have a scope of work, and we could say to the lender, here's exactly what I did. I took a photograph from the street. The lender says we don't want you to disturb the residents, and based on an exterior inspection, we had make assumptions about the interior quality condition. We just state what we did, and a drive-by would be less reliable than a 1004 when we go in there and do it. And that's we're clear about what we're doing and why we're doing it. But at some point, I don't feel comfortable. Like there was a haunted house, not haunted house. It looked like a haunted house. It was really run down. They wanted to do it for mortgage purposes. They wanted to lend money on this house, and it was in really bad shape from the exterior. And I said, we're not doing it. Because I cannot be, my conclusions cannot be misleading or erroneous. So unless I could get in there and see the condition, I can only imagine just how bad this house was. So I didn't wanna say that here's the value and that you can rely on this value, because I just thought it was. There was another one, it was a farm, a horse farm, it wasn't commercial, it was a gentleman farm. And there's so many outbuildings, and I don't know if you know about barns, but a horse barn can be $100,000 or it could be $5,000 falling down. I can't see anything from the road, and I didn't feel comfortable on that one either. I just thought my value conclusions would be misleading and erroneous, and I walked away from those two drive-bys. But generally speaking, we do them all the time for VA when they, VA foreclosure or other foreclosures. But generally, foreclosures is when we do our drive-bys on a regular basis. I've had homeowners tell me, I've never had an appraiser come inside the house. They've always just driven by, or I don't know, appraisal waiver. So we're talking about the property data report and appraisal. It's the new appraisal waiver. They're saying PDR with value acceptance is the new appraisal waiver. 40% of all appraisals were waived during COVID when rates were really, really low. And that's what Fannie is going to. So it may be that when you have a photographer go through your listing, you're gonna have a property data report at the same time. They're gonna go through with Cuba Casa, wave their camera up and down, and then they'll have their PDR. And you may be able to use that in the future instead of the traditional appraiser where we come out and gather that data. Things are changing rapidly, and we can't stop it. Us appraisers on the forums were complaining about the good old days. That's not going to stop it. But that is what I do. I gather data with a tablet, and somebody else could do the same thing reasonably, and I think it is the future. It's going to happen. We're not happy about it, but
Wow.
But there's also the appraiser. These PDRs are supposed to save time and money, but what the AMC has to order a PDR, and then they have to order an appraisal, and it's not really saving much time, and it's causing a lot of conflict. And
Did you
For
say
now.
PDR or PBR?
property data report.
Okay.
But that was my beer when I was drinking.
Okay, all right, there we go. All right, so guys, I have got one more question for our panel, and then we'll go through here. I saw Ann and Rich and Dawn had their hands raised, and then we'll open up to some more questions. So, Diane, what is the craziest thing you ever seen when you have done an appraisal?
I did a house where the couple had life-size nude portraits of themselves hanging in their bedroom. I thought that was a little odd.
Oh my
It
God.
increased the value, didn't it?
Yeah, I was gonna say, did it increase or decrease it?
Did you take a picture of it?
No.
Oh my God. All right, Tom, what about you?
They reminded me of a situation I'm not going to tell you about.
Okay. After the panel, he'll tell you in a small group.
I do not have any crazy stories. I'm blessed. I've never been in, well, except for that one. But yeah. No, I don't have any crazy stories. Sorry. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I got bit by a dog twice.
Okay, well that's kind of crazy.
There you go.
Yes. Oh, well, okay, hold on. Do you guys like for pets to be put up when you're doing an appraisal?
I
Yes.
love pets.
Okay, all right, see? Okay, all right. Because you don't want them biting you. Okay. All right, Chris, what about you?
Okay.
You've been doing this for a long time. You've
Well-
got to have.
Most of those questions I was able to answer just like that, but that last question, I'm thinking back over, 40 some years of looking at houses, telling people what their things are worth and all, and I thought outside the box on this one. So I remember doing my first $1 million house, years ago, and I was so, in love with that house, and it was great. A couple years later, I do another one, and it's a $4 million house, and I said, man, this, houses are, people, you just get out and you see more. Then over the years, to make a long story short, I've done some that are 9 million and some houses that are 12 million. Okay.
Wow.
In the beginning, I must admit I had envy. Okay, but toward the end, I learned a lesson, and instead of the word crazy, I looked at synonym. What other word would be good here? And I saw the word fool. Okay.
Okay.
And the lesson that I learned after all these years is there's always gonna be a nicer house. There's always gonna be a nicer house. And with Christmas coming along, you know, I remember, you know, it's all about the Christ child, and later on in life, he gave a little parable about a rich fool who was storing all his extra harvest into these big barns, and then God came along and said, this very night will be taken from you. Where is all your stuff gonna go now? And so that, you know, so now when I look at these nice houses, I don't have envy anymore, because there's always gonna be somebody with greater. And as a little side note, the $9 million house and the $12 million house, I had to come back later, because they were both involved in a divorce. And I had to go back and do it for the property settlement agreement, because it was such a difficult appraisal. I think I charged like $4,000 to do the appraisal.
Oh,
And
wow.
it's just a house, I mean, but it was a nice house. And the husband who said, you know, I built this as my dream home, and I put everything into it, and he was a builder and everything, but he had a contracting business, so he got the business, but his wife got the house. It
Wow.
was a $9 million house.
I think I might know who that is. But anyways, that's
I
okay.
would say somebody in near Winchester or someplace.
Wow. All right, guys. All right, Ann. So, what's your question?
Well, I do have a problem with the appraisal technicians. Now, especially now that I know how little they have to prepare to do what they do. But I have run into them a lot. I would say a lot, probably 5 in the last 6 months.
Wow.
That's a
It
lot.
is. It is.
The other thing is VA appraisers. Is there a shortage of VA appraisers in our area? It seems to me that we've had some delays recently.
Guys, who wants to go? Go ahead. Whoever.
I think there are. I used to be a VA appraiser in the beginning. That's how I started, and I just did. You know, once I got conventionally approved, I just didn't want to do any more VA. So they're difficult appraisals, and I think is a shortage.
I've been on the VA panel since '95, and they add to the panel when they need. It's a coveted position for an appraiser, mostly. It's up to them. I mean, really, they know their needs. They're not gonna take input from me, whether they should open the panel or close the panel. I know there's a misconception, I believe it's a misconception from realtors who think that if it's a VA, they're gonna kill the deal. Don't go VA, go conventional.
Yeah, I don't either. I always tell my sellers, listen, it's a benefit of service that they're getting this mortgage. Do not ignore it.
That's right.
Right.
But what I'm concerned about now is that sometimes there is a delay because I don't know where these, I think that the pool of appraisers that are being used to do those is further and further.
What is the delay? I mean, are you talking 2 weeks to get the appraisal? Is that a delay? Is it longer than that?
Longer than
Sometimes
that.
longer
Whoa.
than that.
Longer than that.
Wow.
And I know that there's a time frame, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
2 weeks
yeah.
from when we
So
received
the
it.
last one that I had that was delayed, the appraiser said it was 2 weeks from the time he received the order,
Yes,
but he didn't get the order for 3 weeks.
right.
Right? And
The
so
lender-
we're a week out and he hasn't done it yet.
Oh yeah, throw the appraiser under the bus. The lender doesn't
No,
know the
no,
appraisal.
I'm just saying, that's my understanding is it's 2 weeks from the time it's assigned.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Well, but again, that just brings up a good point. Make sure that you've got a good relationship with your lender,
To make
and
sure.
that they are letting you know,
Yeah.
yes, that you can ask them the question, has the appraisal been ordered?
Right.
But
This was
yeah.
new construction.
Oh, better, even better.
Yeah, it was scary. It was really ugly. But anyway, we got through it.
Okay, yay! Rich, what was your question?
How do you determine the value of waterfront property? Do you use waterfront comps only, or is there a way to determine how much value you can assign to waterfront?
Who wants to take that?
I mean, you can all
Well,
just.
I'll start on that. Ideally speaking, you need to have waterfront comps, but the problem is the unit of comparison is usually the front foot of the waterfront. So that makes it very tricky, and because a lot of times you don't have that data. Or it takes the appraiser extra time to go on GIS and say, well, this lot had waterfront, but such and such. And then Tom mentioned earlier, I like to know the depth of the water, you know, and that's, you know, for some people with certain boats, you gotta know the depth. So it gets very difficult to do waterfront property. And then you got the view, which is a completely different, other subjective, not objective adjustment. So waterfronts are probably one of the hardest to do, and you, like I say, you should know all those things. Again, you may have, because it could be, some people say, I got 5 acres on the water, but your frontage is only 100 feet, and other people have 1 acre, but it's got 800 feet on the water, you know, so the 1 acre is gonna be a lot better than the 5 acre, you know, but anyway. Difficult, the most difficult, I'd say, to do.
Right, waterfront or historic, since we have, you know, that aspect in this area also. Historic homes are another one that sometimes are difficult assessing that information. But waterfront, yeah, definitely. You try to use the, you know, the best waterfront comps you have. Sometimes it might even require, you know, going back and looking at some sales from a couple of years ago.
That's what I was asking, yeah.
Right, to analyze like a percentage of adjustment for, you know, the more current sales or that type of thing.
Anything to add, Tom?
We talked about, is it a science or is it an art? And I'm thinking of a particular waterfront appraisal problem. It's an art. I don't think I don't think a computer is gonna come up with a good value on waterfront. I drove all the comps. We got all the comps we could, and you know, this one, you can't see the water from the house. This one, you've got a power station on the other side of the water and power lines going across the water. This one, you know, we described everything and all the comps. I drive and I personally look at all of the comps, and I write down the pluses and the minuses of every waterfront that I can find. That's a lot of driving. It's a very complex assignment. And then it's a judgment call. What would I prefer, or what would the typical purchaser prefer? Which waterfront? Does this one need an adjustment because it's on a creek and this one's on, you know, an inlet or even the Chesapeake Bay? We just talk about the pluses and the minuses. You know, I tell people a lot of times, you know, how do you come up with a value? And I say, well, if you're looking for a car, a used car, and you look at all the, whatever used car, I will say 2020, I don't know, 2020, a 2020 Camry, right? Look at all the 2020 Camrys that are for sale. This one's got high mileage, well, it's been selling for a little, or listed for a little bit less. If you look at those 2020 Camrys long enough, you're gonna have a feel for value. And that's, I guess, a way of explaining how we do it. We're looking at comparable sales, looking at all the waterfront, trying to determine what factors affect value. Why would they want this creek front, inlet front, waterfront? This one's got a pier, this one's got a view from the bedroom, this one you can't see it at all. You know, sloping right down so you would fall or kill yourself. I had Swift Creek, and you know, who wants their kid to fall into the Swift Creek? But the homeowner was saying, you know, it's value added, you know. You know, we make those calls. These are complex assignments that you're describing. Let me know if I can help you with that one.
Pictures are always extremely helpful too. I know some agents, not a lot, but there's some in the area that actually like remove a lot of their MLS photos after the loan closes. I know. And we rely on that. You know, we're looking at photos, trying to, you know, we can drive by a property, but we can't go walk their property a lot, you know, maybe sometimes, but the majority of time, no, you're driving by looking at your comps. So having photographs in MLS is just such a huge help for us, being able to kind of get good visuals on the comparables.
All right, guys, so do you have a few more minutes to stay? You
Oh,
have
yeah.
got a very captivated audience, and I've seen lots of hands up, so I know that we have gone a little over our time, but I think everyone is just like waiting to hear your answer. So, Dawn, what was your question?
Yeah, so what, I'd love to know if there's any value that we, like, you know, you think of a half bath and you can get, you know, 5,000 or something, if there's any value you could place on trying to determine that waterfront, that just, you know, ballpark would be interesting.
Well, what we did, yeah, that's, sometimes we can adjust by the foot if we have enough data. But we usually have, vacant land sales, and we do a lot of waterfront, just vacant land sales, and sometimes if you have enough data, you can come up with an adjustment per waterfront foot. You know, but that's where the little bit of the science comes in, but like Tom said, it absolutely, it's an art, and you just can't come up with anything that, the other thing you gotta be is consistent. You know, that's the big thing with the appraisals, because you usually have with waterfront, we try to get 4 or 5 comp, maybe 6. And if you adjust for one particular feature of that waterfront, be consistent on all 5 of them, because, you know, the old matched pairs, which we never did explain, you know, sometimes it doesn't come out. You know, you can't, this one it was sold for more, and this one sold for less, and they both had the same thing.
So my question actually though was on, solar panels. So, I was told that if you have the green designation, that you can request an appraiser who's familiar with, you know, green energy and solar panels and all that. So I see some smiles and some stuff, so I'm wondering thoughts on that and how you go about that. And then, I am aware that if they're paid off, but I'm curious in our area, we're being told that if they are paid off, free and clear, that there is some value to them that you can put into the appraisal, so I'd like to hear something on that.
You're like, not it.
I am green certified with the Appraisal Institute.
Very good.
Okay.
Yes, they do add value, and many of the questions that we ask are, is it leased or is it owned? Solar panels have, I don't know, a shelf life. If you've got a solar panel from the Jimmy Carter age where they heat the water and in the hot water heater, that might be of lesser value than a more modern. Most solar panels are modern, but they tend to replace the solar panels when they replace the shingles, so they're not forever. Yes, it adds value.
If they're paid up.
Yeah, if they own it.
If they own it, okay.
And then do we go through the lender to request someone like yourself that's designated as a?
I do not know how appraisals are ordered, or if the lender would listen to you. I don't know that answer.
So, one more thing, because I do commercial, and that the answer is good. You know, it makes a difference whether the panels are bought or leased, because you can't add value if they're leased, because they're not even yours. But what I try to do, and usually I never have anybody come back to me, but if they can prove some type of utility saving, you know, I like to look at it on an annual basis more than a monthly, but annually I'm saving, you know, $1,000 a year on your taxes. I can make, and I think that that's gonna happen for the next 10 years. I can figure out the present value of that $10,000 in 1 year, and that could be my adjustment. At least I have some support. But they say you're saving $2,000, you know, again, I'd like to see how they came up with it. I usually don't just take what they say. They can maybe show me the bills or something like that, but mathematically, you know, if you know the time value of money, you can come up with an adjustment that's supportable.
All right, cool. All right, hold on. We've got 3 more hands up. 1, 2, 3. I'm going to get to these 3 right here, and then we will let our appraisers go, and then you can chase after them in the parking lot to get the rest of your questions answered. All right, right here. What's your question?
So I actually have 2. One is, how do you come up with the values for your adjustments? You know, this house has a deck, this house has a pool. Like, what are you thinking? I know it comes from experience, but how? I know at the end you have to justify the values that you come up with. It has to be data oriented. So how do you go through your process when you're going through a house and you're comparing?
All right, I'm going to let Chris answer this one, and then Diane, you can answer her next one, because we don't have.
Okay, so the technique is what I mentioned is called matched pairs, although that is that's the theory. The theory meaning that if you got 2 houses that are exactly the same, but one has a garage and one doesn't, if they both sold, the one with the garage should have sold for more. Okay, that's their matched pairs. I mean, that is a technique, but that is the theory. But in reality, it's you just kind of, you know, you have to really look at tons and tons of data like that. But knowing the theory helps out. You know, what would it sell for if that was the only thing that was done differently? Okay, so, but a lot of it has to do also with the location of the house as well. For example, if you're doing a swimming pool, for example, you know, what do you adjust for a swimming pool? Well, if it's in an area where nobody's got swimming pools and it's just one there, people may not, you know, not pay as much as if it's in an area where everybody's got a swimming pool, that type of thing, you know. But it really does depend. And again, with the garage adjustment or the bathroom adjustment, on a $600,000 house, I'm gonna adjust more for the extra bath than on a $200,000 house. You know, I may adjust $5,000 where I may only do $2,500 on a less expensive house. So that has a lot to do with it.
All right, second question. Quick, sorry.
So the second question
Diane.
is, you have a house and it's purchased in September, and then it's on the market again in December. You don't see a lot of substantive improvements, but they're asking $125,000 more. I'm seeing this more and more. Also, I'm also looking to buy a house and my eyebrows pop up and I'm like, it doesn't say any roof replacement, it doesn't say any substantive improvements. Maybe they bought low, I don't know, but how do you approach a situation like that?
I guess that would be the first question is, right, have they done anything to improve the property since they purchased? If it's that recent, you know, you can go back to the September and look, you know, it's possible, right, they bought below market, maybe it was a, you know, tenant purchasing from their landlord, or a family sale, you know, where the parents sold to their child and, you know, that type of thing. So sometimes there might be a sale that wasn't arm's length in September and now is selling for what would be, you know, market value. Sometimes, you know, it could just be like some anomaly. I mean, right now, you know, there's a limited inventory, so, you know, it could just be, you know, and just, you know, in my opinion, like one buyer doesn't make a market. You know, one person might come in and offer you that $600,000, but that doesn't mean, you know, that any buyer looking at that property would be comfortable, you know, at that price point. Because people always say, well, they wrote an offer, you know, if something comes in low, you know, well, we got a contract for that price, but, you know, there's sometimes a reason that one person specifically wants that property also.
And it might not be worth it.
Right.
All right, sir, right here, your question. Tom, go.
Tom, I'm hoping each of you guys will address this question because it speaks to the Appraisal Institute green addendum. So I sell a lot of high performance homes. We market those high performance homes. I'm NAR's Evergreen Award recipient for 2022.
Yay, that's awesome, 2022.
So my question is such, you know, we encourage agents, brokers to upload information into our green fields. Any of our listings, we provide HERS scores. We work through Pearl in Charlottesville. We provide that Pearl certification. We provide, as Chris's reference, if it's SP panels on the home, we provide that data to support that. If the home, we had a listing that comparables did not have, it was crawl, but our listing was conditioned. So other comparables did not have the conditioned floor area. We had all of that data. This was a VA deal. And we had to go through Tidewater because their value came in a little low. Tidewater agreed with my data and increased the value against the appraiser. But my take is we've done all of this. I'm familiar with the green appraisal addendum. So, you know, we said, even in our listing, the notes and the remarks, we clearly stated this home is a green certified home. And we would love to have a green appraisal. Then, the second, to draw that down, upon the ratification of the contract, that was added as an additional comment. The challenge is there's just not enough green appraisers out here. And we're the appraiser who came, actually I was at the property, the appraiser understood they were just having difficulty, I guess, because there was not enough comps to say all of this other information that I provide. And the appraiser even said to Tidewater, this listing agent did everything he was supposed to do for his client. So how do you come, and I'll piggyback with this last point. Because I'm a former code official, and because we're seeing code change now to go more to high performance homes, we're now requiring 5 air exchanges per hour with the new building codes. So how are we gonna adjust to say, hey, there is true value? The operating cost of this property is gonna be greatly reduced for this new homeowner who buys this property. So hence, is there value through your GSEs to roll back that? It's a long question.
Yeah, I was gonna say, yeah, guys, hold on just one second. We've actually got another meeting starting here, and that seems like a very, very, very
But
long,
income-
in-depth question. Can you give, what is your basic question?
How do we compensate for green homes?
Okay, and if you
Just-
quickly answer
just
that,
real-
Tom.
Chris mentioned, if you could show the tax abatement for a year, he could do a DCF, discounted cash flow analysis. Same way, if you could show that this house is saving $1,000 a month, and then the house next door is $2,000 a month electric bill, that's clear evidence to an appraiser of a value added. It's what's the present value of the right to reduce that electric bill over a year. That would be one quick, and I want to point out what you just mentioned. VA does have a Tidewater, and everybody should be doing that. Conventional, FHA, VA is a wonder to work with. You just gave an example of how it worked for you, so kudos to VA. I want to
Right.
dispel this assumption that VA appraisers are all lowballers.
I think part of the problem, though, you're right with the green aspect also, is that the lenders should be going to somebody who has that certification and experience, and that creates a whole nother issue, is, especially with these management.
All right, yeah.